Finding secondary sources on literary texts that have been published in the last few years can be challenging. This video will go through different types of reviews and other secondary sources that you're likely to find when you're doing research on contemporary literature. First, let's meet Anna. It was 2014. Anna had been binge watching The Walking Dead, and she decided to take a leap and write her novel before the zombie craze was over. She found an agent who loved her fresh take on the literary romantic zombie dramedy genre and sold the novel, My Fair Zombie, to a major publisher. My Fair Zombie was released May 1st, 2015, but before that date, the publisher sent it out to lots of different reviewers. Let's talk about them. People who get early review copies of books like Anna's may write professionally for publications like magazines and newspapers, but sometimes early review copies also go out to people who might be book bloggers or vloggers. Most reviews in any type of publication will be published just before or just after the novel itself. If you're using reviews as secondary sources for academic writing about contemporary literature, I'd stay away from those personal reviews and focus on published ones. You'll find reviews from trade publications like Publishers Weekly or Library Journal, which are written for booksellers and librarians to decide whether or not they want to add these books to their collections. These reviews generally predate the publication of the text itself and are overall very succinct with some description, some evaluation, but overall not much detail. In addition to trade reviews, you'll also find reviews in popular sources like the New York Times or Newsweek magazine. These are going to be written more for a general audience, and they're really to help readers decide if they're interested in the book. For that reason, popular reviews tend to go into more depth, provide more description, and provide more evaluation, so you can decide whether the book is worth reading. Usually, popular reviews are going to be a little more useful than trade reviews for academic writing about contemporary literature. One reason that I tend to favor popular reviews over trade reviews when I'm doing academic writing is that these are often more substantive and give you a little more to work with. You do want to make sure that you're establishing the authority of your reviewer. Is this person someone who reviews books professionally, or do they have some other kind of expertise? For instance, in the case of My Fair Zombie, you might look to a subject matter expert like an epidemiologist who can weigh in on zombie outbreaks, or another author of literary zombie novels who could also be considered an expert on the subject matter. In your search, you may also come across reader-generated reviews from places like Amazon or Goodreads. These are often anonymous and typically are not going to be easy for you to use in your academic writing because the authors of these reviews don't always identify themselves or establish their authority. After publication. Way after publication. Often a year or even more after the original text was published. You'll start to see scholarly literary criticism published in peer-reviewed journals. These are going to be written for scholars like you rather than casual readers or people in the industry. They'll typically make an argument and be more analytical rather than descriptive with plot summaries or basic information about characters. These are the types of sources that your professors tend to prefer, not just because they're scholarly, but because they give you a lot more to work with than those shorter reviews we've discussed earlier. However, they can be challenging to find for really contemporary pieces because it takes so long for these to be researched, written, peer-reviewed, and published. For a quick recap, Anna's novel is published and reviewers get copies and write reviews for trade publications and popular press publications. Those popular press reviews are usually a little more useful because they give a bit more detail than trade reviews. You'll also find user-generated content, which usually isn't as useful for academic writing. Finally, maybe a year or more later, we'll get that scholarly literary criticism, which is really geared for academic research on contemporary literature. Of course, this is an oversimplification because all these different types of sources have value in their own way. This is just to give you some general guidance about what you should look for when you're doing research on contemporary literature. Thanks for watching.
Created using Powtoon.